Part 1, Midnight Delivery. Lieutenant Callum Mercer pressed his palm against the scanner outside room 437 at the Stardust Way station. The door slid open with a reluctant hiss, revealing quarters that could generously be described as utilitarian. A narrow bed, a desk barely large enough for his datapad, and a compact refresher unit occupying one corner. The recycled air carried a faint metallic tang common to all space stations hovering on the edge of Alliance territory. "Lights, 60%, he commanded, dropping his duffel bag on the floor. The overhead panels flickered to life, casting the room in a dim bluish glow that did little to improve its appearance. Callum ran a hand through his short auburn hair and sank onto the bed, wincing as the thin mattress compressed to reveal the hard surface beneath. 3 weeks of hyperspace travel aboard the cargo freighter Distant Horizon had left him with aching muscles and an emptiness in his stomach that demanded immediate attention. "Room service," he called out to the station's AI system. "Whatever passes for dinner in this place." "Acknowledged," came the synthetic reply. "Delivery in approximately 20 standard minutes." Callum used the time to shed his travel-worn uniform, the dark blue fabric marked with the subtle insignia of the Alliance Fleet's Intelligence Division. His true rank was higher than lieutenant, but his current mission required discretion. The shower's water pressure was disappointingly weak, but after weeks aboard a freighter, even lukewarm water felt luxurious against his skin. The chime of the door came precisely when promised. Callum pulled on a simple gray shirt and standard-issue pants before calling out, "It's open." The door slid aside, but instead of the service drone he expected, a slender figure stepped hesitantly into the room. Callum froze, his trained reflexes immediately assessing the newcomer. She was unmistakably not human, though humanoid in form. Her skin gleamed a soft azure, with delicate patterns of lighter blue tracing along her forearms and disappearing beneath her simple white garment. Large eyes, completely silver without visible pupils, regarded him with obvious apprehension. What struck Callum most, however, were the ornate metal bands encircling her wrists, connected by a short length of shimmering energy that pulsed with an ominous blue glow. "Your meal, sir," she said softly, her voice carrying a melodic quality unlike any human tongue. In her bound hands, she balanced a tray containing what appeared to be synthesized protein and a steaming cup of dark liquid. "I ordered food, not company," Callum said carefully, his eyes fixed on the restraints. The alien woman lowered her gaze. "Station Manager Doravan includes additional services with premium accommodations. I am to attend to your needs during your stay." Callum's jaw tightened as understanding dawned. The Stardust Way station had a reputation for operating in the gray areas of Alliance law, but slavery had been outlawed for centuries. "What's your name?" he asked, keeping his tone neutral. "Talise, sir," she replied, still not meeting his gaze. "Look at me, Talise." Slowly, she raised her head, those silver eyes reflecting the room's dim light. Up close, Callum noticed faint bruises along her slender neck, their color a deeper blue against her azure skin. "Put the tray down and come sit," he instructed, gesturing toward the desk chair. Talise obeyed, setting the food down before perching on the edge of the chair, her posture rigid with tension. "How long have you been here?" Callum asked, making no move toward the food. 2 orbital cycles, she answered softly. "Since the hegemony raid on my transport vessel." "I am Lyrian," she added, as if this explained everything. In many ways, it did. The Lyrians were known for their advanced understanding of quantum mechanics and hyperspace technology. Their small confederation of worlds maintained neutrality in the ongoing Cold War between the Alliance and the hegemony. A Lyrian captive would be valuable for her knowledge alone. "And these?" Callum gestured toward her restraints. "Compliance bonds," Talise explained. "They respond to elevated stress hormones in my bloodstream. Any attempt to escape or resist triggers a neural feedback loop." The clinical way she described her own torture made Callum's blood boil. "Eat something," he said, pushing half the meal toward her. You look like you haven't had a proper meal in weeks. Confusion flickered across her features. I'm not permitted to. I'm not asking permission, Callum interrupted. And neither should you. Hesitantly, Talise reached for the offered food, the energy binding between her wrists humming as she moved. She took small, careful bites, her eyes never leaving Callum's face as if waiting for the trick, the trap. I'm not what you think, Callum said quietly. And I certainly didn't request this arrangement. The others say the same, at first, Talise replied, a hint of bitterness coloring her melodic voice. Callum leaned forward, his green eyes intense. I'm Alliance Intelligence. Lieutenant Callum Mercer, officially. My actual rank is classified. Talise stopped mid-bite, those silver eyes widening. You risk much by telling me this. Perhaps, Callum acknowledged. But I need you to understand something, I don't walk away from situations like this. You speak as if you have a choice, Talise said softly. Manager Dorovan controls this station. His security force answers only to him. Even your alliance holds limited jurisdiction here in the border regions. Callum's mouth curved into a slight smile that didn't reach his eyes. I didn't say resolving this would be easy. He stood, moving to retrieve something from his duffel bag. Talise tensed, but remained seated. When Callum turned back, he held a small cylindrical device between his fingers. Neural disruptor, he explained. Military grade. It should be able to deactivate those bonds without triggering the feedback mechanism. Talise stared at the device, then at Callum, genuine confusion evident in her expression. Why would you help me? Your mission, whatever it is, would be compromised. Callum knelt before her, bringing himself to eye level. Some things transcend mission parameters. Slavery is one of them. As he carefully positioned the disruptor near her restraints, the station's emergency lighting suddenly activated, bathing the room in pulsing red. Attention all residents, the station AI announced. Security breach detected in Docking Bay 7. All personnel are advised to remain in their quarters until further notice. Callum's eyes met Talise's silver gaze. Looks like dinner's going to have to wait. It's not a coincidence, Talise whispered, fear evident in her voice. The shipment manager Dorovan has been expecting, it must have arrived. What shipment? Callum asked, already moving to retrieve his sidearm from the bag. Weapons, Talise replied. Hegemony plasma rifles, military-grade shield generators, quantum detonators, enough to outfit a small army. The pieces clicked into place in Callum's mind. His intelligence mission to investigate unauthorized technology transfers suddenly intersected with the plight of the alien woman before him. The universe, it seemed, had a dark sense of humor. Change of plans, Callum said, returning to Talise with renewed urgency. We're getting those restraints off, and then you're going to tell me everything you know about Dorovan's operation. As the neural disruptor hummed to life, beginning the delicate process of deactivating her bonds, Talise looked up at him with the first glimmer of hope. Why risk yourself for a stranger? She asked softly. Callum met her gaze steadily. Because when good people do nothing, the darkness wins. And I've seen enough darkness to last several lifetimes. The first restraint clicked open, falling away to reveal raw, chafed skin beneath. Outside, the station's alarms continued their urgent wail, a fitting backdrop to the beginning of what promised to be a very complicated night. Part 2, Bonds Unbroken. The second restraint clattered to the floor as the neural disruptor completed its work. Talise rubbed her wrists, the azure skin raw and blistered where the bonds had been. Free movement after so long in restraint seemed to both pain and delight her. The circulation will return soon, Callum said, watching her flex her slender fingers. Though I'm not familiar enough with Lyrian physiology to know how quickly you heal. Faster than humans, Talise replied, her silver eyes fixed on her freed wrists with something akin to wonder. But not as rapidly as some species. These marks will fade in approximately 36 standard hours. The station's alarm continued its rhythmic wail, punctuated now by distant sounds that might have been weapons fire. Callum moved to the viewport, peering through the reinforced glass at the curved interior of the station's residential ring. Security personnel in Doravan's distinctive gray uniforms rushed along the main promenade, pulse rifles at the ready. "Tell me about these weapons shipments," Callum said, turning back to Talise. Every detail could matter. Talise stood, steadier now, her posture straighter without the burden of the restraints. "Manager Doravan has been receiving regular deliveries for 3 standard months. The crates bear hegemony military markings but arrive on independent transport vessels." "Smugglers," Callum supplied. She nodded. The most recent communication suggested this shipment contained something special, something Doravan called the equalizer. He seemed excited. The way she said the word suggested Doravan's excitement was something to be feared. Callum checked the charge on his sidearm, a standard-issue Alliance plasma pistol, powerful enough to penetrate light armor but discreet enough for undercover work. "We need to move," he decided. "This room will be one of the first places they check when they discover you're missing." "Where can we go?" Talise asked. "The station is locked down, and all departing vessels require Doravan's authorization codes." Callum offered a small smile. "Fortunately, acquiring things that don't want to be acquired is something of a specialty of mine." He reached into his duffel bag and withdrew a second, smaller weapon. "Ever fired a plasma pistol?" Talise accepted the weapon with surprising confidence. "My people are scholars first, but all Lyrian diplomatic vessels maintain defense protocols. I received basic training." An explosion somewhere below them sent a tremor through the station's superstructure, causing the lights to flicker momentarily. "That wasn't Doravan's security team," Callum remarked, moving toward the door. "Someone else is making a play for the shipment." "The hegemony, perhaps?" Talise suggested. "They may have discovered Doravan's side business selling their technology." "Or a rival faction," Callum added. "Either way, it's the distraction we need." He pressed his ear against the door, listening for movement in the corridor beyond. Satisfied they were momentarily alone, he activated the door's release mechanism and peered outside. The hallway stretched empty in both directions, though emergency lighting bathed everything in pulsing crimson. "Station schematics indicate a maintenance access tunnel 2 sections down," Talise said quietly, coming to stand beside him. "It connects all residential rings to the central hub." Callum gave her an appraising look. "You've been planning an escape." "Every moment of every day," she confirmed, her voice steady. "Hope is a luxury, but preparation is a necessity." They moved into the corridor, keeping close to the wall. Callum led, his movements precise and efficient, the product of years of specialized training. Talise followed, her graceful steps nearly silent despite her obvious lack of practice. "How many others?" Callum asked as they approached an intersection. "Others? Like you. Captives. Slaves." The last word came out as a barely contained growl. Talisa's expression darkened. "7 that I know of. 2 Centaurians, a Vega colonist, 3 humans, and a Proximan adolescent." Callum's jaw tightened. "We'll need to adjust our plans. They're kept in the lower levels," Talise explained. "Heavily guarded, access restricted to Doravan and his inner circle." Another explosion, closer this time, rocked the station. Emergency bulkheads began to descend at various junctions, the station's automated response to potential hull breaches. "There." Talise pointed to a recessed panel in the wall, marked with maintenance symbols. Callum pried it open, revealing a narrow shaft with a ladder descending into dimly lit depths. "Ladies first," he said with a grim smile. Talise slipped into the opening with unexpected agility, her slender form easily navigating the confined space. Callum followed, pulling the panel closed behind them just as heavy footsteps thundered past in the corridor. The maintenance shaft was cramped and poorly lit, designed for utility drones rather than humanoid access. They descended in silence, the sounds of conflict growing more distant as they moved deeper into the station's infrastructure. "May I ask," Talise ventured after several minutes, "what brought Alliance intelligence to Stardust Station?" "It cannot be coincidence." "Classified," Callum replied automatically, then relented. "But given the circumstances, we received intelligence about unauthorized technology transfers. Specifically, quantum encryption modules being adapted for military applications." "The Lyrian technology," Talise whispered, understanding dawning in her silver eyes. "That's why Dorovan kept me alive despite my resistance. He's been forcing me to adapt our theoretical models for practical weapons applications." They reached a horizontal junction, a narrow tunnel stretching in both directions. Distant mechanical sounds echoed through the metal confines. "Which way to the lower levels?" Callum asked. Talise hesitated, an internal struggle visible on her features. "Lieutenant Mercer, if we free the others, our chances of escape diminish significantly." "Callum," he corrected. "And I'm aware of the tactical disadvantage." "Yet you would still attempt it?" He met her gaze steadily. "I would." Something shifted in Talis's expression, respect, perhaps, or simply re-evaluation. "Then we go left. The maintenance shaft connects to the detention level through an auxiliary power junction." They crawled through the narrow passage, the metal uncomfortably warm against their palms. The station's alarms had stopped, replaced by intermittent announcements ordering all personnel to secure locations. "Tell me about your people," Callum said quietly, partly to distract her from their precarious situation. "The Lyrians?" Talise seemed surprised by the question. "We are an old species, though our interstellar presence is relatively recent. Our homeworld orbits a binary star system. Our philosophers believe the duality of our suns shaped our cultural emphasis on balance and perspective." "I've heard your people can perceive quantum states directly," Callum remarked. "That's how your hyperspace calculations are so precise." Talise smiled faintly. "A simplification, but not entirely inaccurate. We perceive probabilities more clearly than most species. Potential futures as patterns of energy and light." "Useful skill," Callum commented. "Sometimes," she agreed. "Though seeing countless possible outcomes doesn't always help one avoid the worst of them." They reached a junction box, larger than the surrounding tunnel. Talise manipulated a series of controls with practiced ease, causing a section of wall to slide away. "The detention level," she whispered. 2 guards are typically stationed at the main access point, with automated security systems throughout. Callum checked his weapon. "Can you override those systems?" "Perhaps," Talise replied. "But Callum." She placed a hand on his arm, her touch unexpectedly warm. "In all the futures I've glimpsed since my capture, not once did I foresee someone like you." Their eyes met in the dim light of the maintenance tunnel, a moment of connection transcending their brief acquaintance. "Sometimes the future needs a little push," Callum said softly. A sudden burst of weapons fire from beyond the opening shattered the moment. Shouts and the distinctive whine of plasma rifles echoed through the detention level. "Someone else is making a move for the prisoners," Callum realized. Talis's silver eyes widened. "The rival faction, if they secure the other captives. They become bargaining chips or worse," Callum finished grimly. "Stay behind me." He edged toward the opening, plasma pistol raised. The scene beyond was chaos, 2 groups engaged in firefight across the detention block. Dorovan security forces had taken defensive positions behind durasteel barriers, exchanging fire with black-clad attackers wearing full-face helmets. "Not hegemony troops," Callum murmured. "Independent operators, well-equipped." "Mercenaries," Talise confirmed. "The insignia on their armor belongs to the Carrion Brigade, hired guns with a reputation for brutality. Callum assessed the situation with practiced efficiency. This complicates things. Does it change our objective? Talise asked. He glanced at her, noting the determined set of her jaw and the steady grip on her weapon. In the midst of chaos, facing impossible odds, she showed no sign of wavering. No, Callum decided. It just means we'll need to be creative. Part 3, Hunters in the Dark. The Maintenance Bay Blues. The Maintenance Bay was a cluttered cathedral of tools, spare parts, and half-dismantled equipment. Service droids moved methodically through the chaos, oblivious to the station's lockdown protocols. Unlike the security-conscious main areas, this section operated on independent systems, essential for emergency repairs even during critical situations. There, Navarra whispered, pointing toward a row of small utility vessels lined up along the far wall. Little more than engines with a pressurized cabin attached, the maintenance tugs were designed for external hull repairs and minor debris clearing. Darius assessed their options with a professional eye. Third one from the left. Newer model. Better oxygen recyclers. They moved carefully between towering stacks of replacement hull plating, using the cover to approach their target. The maintenance bay's enormous doors, large enough to accommodate substantial repair equipment, were currently sealed due to the lockdown, but the smaller personnel airlock beside them remained operational for emergency EVA access. "How's your EVA experience?" Darius asked, referencing extravehicular activity training. "Limited," Navarra admitted. "My species doesn't handle vacuum exposure well. Our cellular structure is too fluid." "Then we'll need to," Darius began, but stopped abruptly, raising his hand in a universal gesture for silence. From the corridor outside came the distinctive sound of Vexenar speech, a series of clicks and low-frequency rumbles that human vocal cords couldn't reproduce. The hunters were methodically checking each section of the station. Darius motioned for Navarra to follow him behind a massive coolant tank. They crouched low, barely breathing, as the maintenance bay's side door slid open. Face to face with nightmares. The Vexenar who entered was the embodiment of evolutionary perfection as a predator. Standing over 7 feet tall with a segmented exoskeleton in mottled gray and black, its 4 arms each ended in different specialized appendages, grasping claws, sensory tendrils, and weapon mounts. Where a head should be, a cluster of sensory organs rotated independently, scanning in all directions. Most disturbing was the biological collection apparatus attached to its torso, transparent containers filled with various fluids, connected to the hunter's circulatory system. The Vexenar were notorious for incorporating genetic material from their prey, adapting and evolving with each successful hunt. The creature moved with unsettling grace for its size, each step precisely calculated. It paused near the entrance, its sensory cluster rotating slowly as it sampled the air. "It's scanning," Navarra breathed, barely audible even to Darius beside her. "Searching for my biochemical signature." The Vexenar hunter took another step into the bay, moving closer to their hiding place. A maintenance droid approached it, beeping inquiringly, and was casually swatted aside with enough force to smash it against the wall. Darius's hand tightened on his pulse pistol. At this range, he might get one clean shot before the creature reacted, and one shot wouldn't be enough to bring down a Vexenar. The hunter took another step forward, then suddenly froze. Its sensory cluster rotated rapidly, focusing on something near the bay doors. After a moment's hesitation, it turned and moved swiftly in that direction, disappearing through a different exit than the one it had entered through. "What just happened?" Darius whispered once he was certain the creature was gone. "I don't know," Navarra replied, her bioluminescent patterns rippling with tension. Something else caught its attention. Something it deemed more important than a routine scan. "Or someone is deliberately leading it away," Darius said grimly. "Either way, we need to move. Now." The Great Escape. They made their way to the maintenance tug, moving as quickly as stealth would allow. Up close, the vessel looked even less space-worthy than Darius had feared, dented hull plating, wiring exposed in several places, and a cockpit barely large enough for 2 humanoids. "Can you override the security lockout?" he asked as Navarra examined the vessel's access panel. "Basic station protocols," she replied, her slender fingers dancing across the control surface. "Not nearly as sophisticated as what I faced at the consortium." The access panel blinked green, and the tug's entry hatch slid open with a reluctant groan. "After you," Darius said, keeping watch as Navarra climbed inside. He followed quickly, sealing the hatch behind them. The cockpit was cramped, forcing them to sit shoulder to shoulder. Darius could feel the strange, subtle heat radiating from Navarra's skin, could see the intricate patterns of bioluminescence that seemed to reflect her emotional state. "Life support systems operating at 63% efficiency," Navarra reported, studying the tug's diagnostic readouts. "Propulsion at 81%. Communications." She frowned. "Communications are offline. Can you fix it?" "Not from here. The transmitter assembly is located outside the hull." Darius ran a hand through his short-cropped hair. "So we'll be flying blind and mute." "Perfect. We can still receive broadcasts," Navarra pointed out. "We just can't respond. Small comfort if we need to call for help." Darius activated the propulsion systems, feeling the small vessel hum to life beneath them. "How do we get those bay doors open without alerting the entire station?" Navarra's silver eyes gleamed with unexpected mischief. "Watch." Her fingers moved across the control panel, bypassing security protocols with practiced ease. On a secondary screen, Darius could see she had accessed the station's maintenance scheduling system. "Scheduled debris clearing operation," she explained. "Standard procedure during normal operations. The system doesn't know we're in lockdown." "Won't they notice when the bay doors start opening?" "They will," Navarra acknowledged. "But by then, we'll already be moving." She pressed the final command, and with a grinding rumble that vibrated through the maintenance bay, the massive doors began to part. "Vacuum problems." Alarms immediately blared throughout the station. Red emergency lights flashed as automatic safety systems detected the imminent breach of atmosphere. "Hold on," Darius warned, engaging the tug's thrusters. The small vessel lurched forward, accelerating toward the slowly widening gap between the bay doors. Behind them, the maintenance bay erupted into chaos. Service droids scattered, seeking secure positions as the atmosphere began to vent. Through the rear viewport, Darius caught a glimpse of station security personnel rushing into the bay, firing wildly at their escaping vessel. "They're overriding the door controls," Navarra reported, watching the system status indicators. "Reversing the opening sequence." The massive doors shuddered, then began to close again, too slowly to trap them, but creating a narrower and narrower gap with each passing second. Darius pushed the thrusters to maximum, feeling the tug's frame protest under the strain. "This is going to be tight." The gap continued to shrink as they approached. What had started as a comfortable opening was now barely wider than their vessel. "Brace yourself," Darius ordered, making a minute adjustment to their trajectory. The maintenance tug scraped against the partially closed doors with a shriek of tearing metal. Warning lights flashed across the control panel as external sensors were sheared away. And then they were through, bursting into the star-speckled blackness of space beyond the station. "Damage report," Darius called out, focusing on putting as much distance as possible between them and the Orion Psi. "Hull integrity at 94%, Navarra responded. "We're venting atmosphere from a small breach near the propulsion section, but the emergency sealant is already deploying." Darius allowed himself a moment of relief before checking the sensor readings. "They'll send pursuit craft." "How far to the jump point?" "At maximum sustainable speed, approximately 47 minutes. "And how long before they catch us?" Navarra consulted the readings. Based on standard station security vessel capabilities, 35 minutes. The silent void. For several minutes, they flew in tense silence, the maintenance tug pushing well beyond its design specifications. Through the viewport, the Orion side diminished behind them, becoming just another artificial star against the void. No pursuit yet, Darius noted, checking the rudimentary sensors. That's concerning. Perhaps they believe the tug won't survive the journey to the jump point, Navarra suggested. Maybe. But Darius didn't believe it. In his experience, the absence of an expected threat often meant something worse was coming. Tell me more about this bioweapon. How does it work? Navarra's bioluminescent patterns shifted to deeper blues, a sign of concentration or concern. Darius wasn't sure which. It targets a specific gene sequence found only in human DNA, she explained. Creates a cascading cellular breakdown that appears like a natural disease. The victim's own immune system accelerates the process, attacking healthy cells in a misguided defense response. And the mortality rate? 100%, she said softly. Death occurs within 72 hours of exposure. No known treatment once symptoms begin. Darius absorbed this information in grim silence. How would they deploy it? Multiple methods. Aerosol dispersal in population centers. Introduction into water supplies. Even modification of common food crops. She looked at him directly. The consortium has agents throughout Earth's major cities. They could initiate deployment before anyone realized what was happening. And you have proof of all this? Navarra touched the small pocket where she kept the data crystal. Everything they planned, everyone involved. Names, dates, financial records. She hesitated. Including some from within Earth's government and military structure. That confirmed Darius's worst fears. The false communication from Admiral Hastings made sense now. The conspiracy reached into Earth fleet's upper echelons. Who could possibly benefit from wiping out humanity, he wondered aloud. Many species view humans as a threat, Navarra replied. Your kind expands rapidly, adapts quickly, forms alliances easily. What took other species millennia of evolution, humans achieve through technology and sheer determination within generations. A warning light suddenly flashed on the control panel, interrupting their conversation. What's that? Darius asked sharply. Navarra's expression grew concerned as she studied the readings. Long-range sensors detecting a vessel on intercept course. Too large to be station security. Darius enhanced the image on the screen. The approaching ship was sleek, predatory in design, with weapon systems clearly visible along its hull. Consortium pursuit vessel, Navarra confirmed, her voice tight. Military grade. They must have had it waiting nearby. Darius checked their position. We're still 20 minutes from the jump point. They'll intercept us in 12. The hunter's shadow. The situation was deteriorating rapidly. The maintenance tug, already pushed beyond its limits, couldn't outrun a proper military vessel. They had limited options, none of them good. Any weapons on this bucket? Darius asked, though he already knew the answer. It's a maintenance vessel, Navarra reminded him. The most dangerous tool on board is a plasma cutter for hull repairs. Darius's mind raced through possibilities. What about the debris deflector? Can it be modified? To do what, exactly? To create a sensor shadow. If we can't outrun them, maybe we can hide. Navarra's silver eyes widened slightly as she understood. Use the deflector to scatter their targeting sensors. It might work, but it would drain our already limited power reserves. Part 4, The Admiral's Gambit. Shadow Games. Divert power from life support, Darius instructed, his fingers flying across the control panel. Leave us with the minimum to survive. That will give us only 4 hours of breathable atmosphere, Navarra warned, but she was already making the adjustments. "If this doesn't work, we won't need 4 hours," Darius replied grimly. The maintenance tug's engine sputtered as power was rerouted to the debris deflector, a simple electromagnetic field designed to push space debris away from the vessel. Darius had served on enough military ships to understand the basic principles of sensor technology. With modifications, the deflector might scatter their pursuers' targeting systems enough to create confusion. "Ready," Navarra announced. Deflector reconfigured to emit random electromagnetic pulses. Darius studied the approaching consortium vessel on their sensors. "Wait until they're within optimal targeting range. They'll be fully focused on weapons lock." The pursuing ship grew larger on their view screen, its predatory design becoming clearer as it closed the distance. Weapon ports along its hull glowed with building energy. "Now," Darius ordered when the vessel was less than 30 seconds from weapons range. Navarra activated the modified deflector. The tug shuddered as the electromagnetic field pulsed outward in an irregular pattern. At the same time, Darius cut all propulsion and non-essential systems, allowing the vessel to drift on its previous trajectory. "They're scanning," Navarra reported, watching the sensor readouts. "Their targeting systems are struggling to get a lock." Through the viewport, they could see the consortium ship slow its approach, sweeping the area with intensive scans. It moved past their position, weapons ready but unable to find a clear target. "It's working," Darius breathed. "They can detect something's here, but can't pinpoint our exact location." "For now," Navarra cautioned. "The deflector is draining power rapidly. We have maybe 20 minutes before it fails." The pursuing vessel continued its search pattern, moving in widening circles around their last known position. Each pass brought it dangerously close to their actual location, but each time it moved on, confused by the scattered sensor readings. "We need to move," Darius said finally. "Very slowly, minimal power to thrusters. Let's drift toward that debris field." He indicated a collection of asteroids and space junk visible on their sensors, about 5 minutes away at minimal thrust. The tug inched forward, systems barely operating above standby levels. On the view screen, the consortium vessel continued its increasingly frustrated search pattern, occasionally firing speculative shots into empty space. The asteroid waltz. The debris field offered both protection and danger. The tumbling rocks and metallic fragments would further confuse sensors, but a single collision could breach their already damaged hull. Darius navigated with painstaking precision, easing the maintenance tug between two slowly rotating asteroids. "Power to deflector is at critical levels," Navarra warned. "Failure imminent." "Cut it," Darius ordered. "We'll use the natural interference from the debris field now." The electromagnetic field collapsed, and for a tense moment, they waited to see if the pursuing vessel would immediately lock onto their position. The consortium ship continued its search pattern for several minutes, then suddenly changed course, heading directly toward the debris field. "They're guessing," Darius said. "Smart move. If I were hunting us, I'd check the debris field too." "What now?" Navarra asked, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing with anxiety. Before Darius could answer, the tug's communication system, which could still receive even if it couldn't transmit, crackled to life. "Attention unidentified vessel," came a voice, speaking standard Earth Alliance English. "This is the Earth Fleet Destroyer Adamant. You have entered a restricted military testing zone. Identify yourself immediately or be fired upon." Darius and Navarra exchanged shocked glances. "Earth Fleet?" Navarra whispered. "Here." The voice continued, "Consortium vessel, you are in violation of Treaty Section 47. Power down weapons and prepare to be boarded." Through the viewport, they caught sight of a massive warship materializing from behind one of the larger asteroids, the distinctive silhouette of an Earth Fleet destroyer, weapons ports open and shields at full power. "That's not part of my extraction team," Darius muttered. "The Adamant shouldn't be anywhere near this sector." The consortium pursuit ship immediately changed course, accelerating away from both the debris field and the Earth fleet destroyer. A warning shot from the Adamant's forward batteries crossed its bow. "They're running," Navarra observed as the consortium vessel pushed to maximum speed, abandoning its hunt. "And we're still stuck in a powerless maintenance tug," Darius reminded her. "With no way to communicate our identity." The destroyer's voice came again, more insistent. "Unidentified vessel in the debris field. This is your final warning. Identify yourself or face consequences." "They can't detect us clearly through the debris," Darius realized. "But they know something's here. If we power up to communicate, we expose our position to any other consortium ships in the area," Navarra pointed out. Darius made a quick decision. "We need fleet protection more than we need stealth right now. Full power to systems, get us clear of this debris field." "The old friend." The maintenance tug hummed back to life as power flowed through its systems. Darius carefully navigated out of the debris field, making sure to approach the Earth fleet destroyer with deliberate slowness, weapon systems visibly offline. "Unidentified vessel, hold position," came the order from the Adamant. "No choice now," Darius muttered. He opened the tug's receiving frequency to broadcast mode, a jury-rigged solution that might allow limited two-way communication. "Adamant, this is Commander Darius Vale, Earth Fleet Intelligence, verification code Sierra Tango 947. I am on a priority mission and request immediate assistance." There was a long pause before the response came. "Transmit full biometric authentication, Commander." Darius placed his palm on the scanner and submitted to a retinal scan. The tug's limited systems transmitted the data to the destroyer. Another tense moment passed before the destroyer responded. "Authentication confirmed. Approach Docking Bay 3, Commander Vale. Security detail will meet you there." As they maneuvered toward the massive warship, Navarra looked uncertainly at Darius. "Can they be trusted? If the conspiracy reaches into Fleet Command?" "We don't have many options," Darius replied. "And I know the Adamant's captain. Hernandez is one of the good ones." The docking procedure was tense but uneventful. As promised, a security detail waited in the docking bay, 6 armed officers in full combat gear, led by a stern-faced woman with captain's insignia. "Captain Hernandez," Darius greeted as they exited the maintenance tug. "Your timing is impeccable." Captain Sofia Hernandez didn't return his smile. "Commander Vale. You're a long way from your assigned sector." Her gaze shifted to Navarra, her expression hardening further. "And in interesting company. This is Navarra, a xenobiologist formerly employed by the Helix Consortium," Darius explained. "She has critical intelligence regarding a threat to Earth." Hernandez's expression remained impassive. "Both of you will surrender any weapons and communication devices before proceeding." "Standard protocol." Darius handed over his pulse pistol without hesitation. "Captain, we need to arrange immediate transport to Earth Fleet Headquarters." "This can't wait." "Of course, Commander," Hernandez replied, her tone neutral. "Admiral Lancaster is waiting to speak with you in my ready room." Darius froze. "Lancaster? Marcus Lancaster?" "Yes. Fleet Admiral Lancaster arrived yesterday for a surprise inspection. When we detected the consortium vessel, he took personal interest in the situation." Navarra moved closer to Darius, her voice barely audible. "What's wrong?" "Lancaster was supposed to be overseeing operations in the Proxima Centauri system," Darius whispered back. 3 weeks ago, during my mission briefing, Admiral Hastings specifically mentioned that Lancaster would be unavailable for consultation because he was deployed to Proxima." Captain Hernandez gestured toward the exit. "This way, please. The Admiral is eager to meet your alien friend." "The Admiral's welcome." The destroyer's corridors were spotless, orderly, the very picture of Earth fleet efficiency. Yet Darius felt increasingly uneasy as they were escorted deeper into the vessel, away from the docking bay and any potential escape routes. Your mission was to gather intelligence on trade route vulnerabilities, Captain Hernandez remarked as they walked. How did you end up harboring a fugitive from the Helix Consortium? The mission parameters changed when I learned of an imminent threat to Earth's population, Darius replied carefully. Sometimes field operatives have to make judgment calls. Indeed they do, Hernandez agreed too readily. I'm sure Admiral Lancaster will be fascinated by your judgment. They arrived at the captain's ready room. The security detail positioned themselves outside as Hernandez ushered Darius and Navarra inside. The room was spacious by Starship standards, dominated by a large desk and viewing port that currently showed the debris field they had recently escaped. A tall, silver-haired man in an immaculate admiral's uniform stood with his back to them, gazing out at the stars. Admiral Lancaster, Hernandez announced. Commander Vale and the Lirari scientist. The admiral turned slowly, his weathered face breaking into a smile that didn't reach his cold gray eyes. Commander Vale. Your reputation for unorthodox methods precedes you. Darius snapped to attention, offering a formal salute. Admiral. I wasn't aware you were operating in this sector. Few were, Lancaster replied smoothly. Compartmentalization of information is essential in these uncertain times. Wouldn't you agree? Yes, sir. Lancaster's gaze shifted to Navarra, studying her with clinical interest. And this must be the consortium defector I've heard so much about. Sir, Darius said, keeping his voice respectful but firm, Navarra has critical information regarding a bioweapon the consortium is developing, specifically designed to target humans. We need to get this intelligence to Earth immediately. A bioweapon? How concerning. Lancaster circled his desk, every movement precise and measured. Captain Hernandez, you're dismissed. I'll speak with the commander and his guest privately. Hernandez hesitated, then nodded. Yes, Admiral. She exited the ready room, leaving them alone with Lancaster. As soon as the door closed, Lancaster's demeanor changed subtly, a nearly imperceptible relaxation of his formal posture, a slight change in his gaze. So, he said, sitting at his desk. You have evidence of a conspiracy against Earth. Yes, sir, Darius confirmed. Detailed plans for a genetically targeted bioweapon. Names, dates, financial records. Including, I imagine, some rather prominent names within Earth's government and military? That's correct, Admiral. Lancaster nodded slowly. And this evidence is contained where, exactly? Darius hesitated, a warning instinct prickling at the back of his mind. Before he could respond, Navarra stepped forward. Admiral Lancaster, she said, her melodic voice steady, before we discuss the evidence further, may I ask why your name appears on the list of consortium financial backers?